And welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Mike Friesen. With us for our program today, representing the 21st Assembly District in New York State, Assemblyman Brian Curran. The 21st District takes in parts of Nassau County. We thank you folks all across the island for joining us for our program today. Brian Curran, always a pleasure. We are knee-deep in budget talks here at the state capitol. We are going to spend most of today's program talking about budget-related items, how they impact the people you represent. We start this discussion today with the MTA, the trains. Are the trains running on time? You had a chance to talk to the chairman of the MTA when he came to represent his best interests as part of the budget process.
Sure. So, yeah, there are a lot of problems. It was a big campaign topic when I was going door to door with regards to the LIR, particularly, actually two-phased. One phase was with regards to the condition of stations, various stations, particularly Valley Stream and Limbrook. That's what I wanted to talk to the chairman of the LIR about. And then the second thing is about the time change along the West Hempstead line. The LIR is in the process of changing times, and it is not good times for the commuters along that line of Malvern, West Hempstead, and Valley Stream. So we're going to have to, we're working on that with the LIR to try to get them changed.
Why don't we start off showing the exchange between you, the head of the MTA, whose name is Jono Lieber. He's the chairman and chief operating officer, executive officer of the MTA. You asked in particular about the Valley Stream station, the Limbrook station, and you were pretty blunt in how you laid out those concerns about crumbling conditions at these facilities. So we'll take a look and a listen and see how that back and forth went, and then we'll come back and talk more today with Assemblyman Brian Curran.
My questions are local in nature, and I don't expect you to recognize both of the stations that I'm going to talk about, but just for context, my district, the 21st, runs from Valley Stream down on Long Island out to Freeport. And there's two particular stations that I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to follow up on a letter that was written to you by County Executive Bruce Blakeman dated August 31st about the Valley Stream station. And in that letter, he described the dangerous condition of the station, consisting of crumbling concrete, rusting metal, peeling paint, weakening overpass with rebar now showing through, corrosive fluids dripping down on people and cars, and leaking and flooding condition in all of the waiting rooms. In that letter, he also talked about how that station was scheduled for a $5 million capital project improvement back in 2018 that they haven't seen. Again, I don't know if you are aware of the situation there or if you have any notes with you today, just to give me a status about where we stand with any possible repairs, because this station is truly dangerous for all of the riders that go to it.
Okay, so I do know, I remember that letter, and I remember the TV story that came with it. And we responded. We talked about the condition. I would go so far as to say I think we rebutted the description of the conditions of that station, the suggestion that the steel was somehow unsafe. And you and I should get together and go over some of those details, but I know that we responded. And there, Valley Stream is the district your district, and
yes,
the areas you're talking about are important, and service is increasing. And we're confident in the condition of that station. I don't know, as we sit here, about the cause of the delay of that capital project, but I'm happy to get into it. We don't shut down capital projects just for the heck of it.
And I appreciate it, and I will get a copy of that response, and I appreciate you responding to them. I just don't have that copy. But what I do have is I have 50 photographs showing the dangerous condition of that station. And if you don't mind, if you don't mind me giving them to you, so that you can take a look at them, and then
I think I saw. I'm happy to have it. I think I saw them along with the TV news story that came with it at the time that public debate unfolded. But we did respond specifically about those conditions, and you and I should go over that.
I would love to. Thank you very much. Just one other question, Chairman. So the next station down on both the Babylon and the Long Beach line is Limbrook. And thankfully, and I appreciate this, there was a significant capital money that was put into Limbrook back in 2019 after we fought for it for about 8 years. But the capital money that was put in wasn't sufficient enough to improve the entire station. I have here a folder of correspondence over the last 2 years regarding crumbling concrete falling on people, along with paint peeling along the trestles areas throughout the village. I was hoping to provide that to you as well, and hoping that maybe we can actually talk about some progress or possible monies to address those problems.
You'll have to.
Happy to have it.
You'll have to do that offline.
So we saw what the chairman of the MTA had to say about those particular stations. He seemed to have some kind of knowledge of the conditions of the stations.
He did. So during the summer, I participated in a press conference with the Valley Stream Mayor, Ed Fair, with regards to the Valley Stream Station, and it clearly is in disrepair. That press conference was also attended by County Executive Bruce Blakeman, who wrote a letter on behalf of Valley Stream asking the state to abide by their previous promise of $5 million and get the station fixed. As conveyed in that letter and as in the pictures that I gave to the chairman during that hearing, clearly the Valley Stream Station is in not only disrepair, but terrible disrepair that needs immediate correction. So we're going to follow up on that. And then also I've been in contact with Mayor Alan Beach of Lynbrook. There are ongoing problems with that station as well, even though they put a lot of money into it right after I left in 2018, after years of fighting for an upgrade in that station, which we got. There are still other things that have to be done about the trestles being painted, concrete falling down underneath some of the bypass trestles. So again, these are areas that we have to continue to keep the pressure on Long Island Railroad, and we have to work at getting them to, if they're looking for a fare hike, which they are this year, unfortunately, they better make sure that the stations are of top-notch quality, and if you're going to ask those people to pay that money.
If nothing else, you can say that at least this is an opportunity to have those things addressed. When they come and they're talking about a rate hike, at least you get the chance to mix it up a little bit and say, hey, what's going on?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, going to the people asking for more money, it's hard enough, but you better make sure that the quality of the service that you're giving is up to those standards.
All right, we got a lot of other things to cover as it pertains to the budget process as things are being put together now here at the state capitol in Albany. Of course, chief of interest among topics of conversation here for Long Island is aid to education. Long Island is a place that is probably the most proud of any place in New York State about its public schools. They're very important to the island, and I'll just ask you, is there more money, enough money, in this budget as proposed by Governor Hochul for schools in the state?
Well, you're right, Mike. The budget conversation, at least for the Nassau delegation, always starts and ends with education. I mean, that is the most important aspect of the budget. And this year, it's happy that we're starting the process on a good foot, which has never been said, at least as long as I've been up here. And that is Governor Hochul has recommended a 10% increase in public school aid across the board. It's $3.1 billion. She also recommended $2.7 billion increase in foundation aid. So for those at home that actually understand the school formulas, those are the two biggest components of school aid back. So that's good news for our schools. When we won't be having to fight all the way down to the wire for increases. We know that that's there, and in talking with the superintendents, many of them, if not all of them, are very happy with this.
We showed a bar graph showing the increases in education, fairly consistent. There were a few down years, but it looks as if, as you pointed out, under this governor's proposal for this year, things are going to be pretty good.
Yeah, I was happy in the 8 years that I was here, from 10 to 18, we always saw an increase in state aid to our schools, and that is a good thing, especially now, this year coming out of COVID, where schools have to find money to catch these kids up. It's good that we're increasing the educational aid.
That's aid to public schools. What about the non-public schools, the Catholic schools, the private schools?
Not so good. So here's the thing. So Governor Hochul recommended a couple of proposals in her budget that hurts our non-public schools, so our private and our Catholic schools, and I'm getting a lot of emails on them. Specifically, she's recommending a decrease in CAP services and mandated service reimbursements. That's where, Catholic and private schools have to do certain things that the state tells them to do. They usually get reimbursed. She's decreasing that amount. She's also trying to put language in this budget whereby, the amount that she puts in her budget is the total amount that the state's going to give Catholic and private schools for the entire year. So if those services run over that amount, then the Catholic and private schools are going to be stuck with it. That's language that's never been put in there before. Trying to shortchange those schools, we can't have that. We got to fight against that.
Another topic comes up each and every year is aid to libraries.
Yes.
Now, the aid to libraries is, to my mind, always one of the smallest parts of the state budget. Yet it seems like each year when the governor, whoever the governor might happen to be at any particular time in Albany, proposes an executive budget and hands it to the legislature and says, here, take a look at this, tell me what you think.
Right.
They cut funding to the public libraries. Why?
I don't know. It never made sense. You know, in my earlier years, you could always see as a budget negotiation or a chip in the game where a governor might hold back some funding, like we were just talking about education. If he needed the downstaters, senators and assembly people, to, you know, approve certain parts that the governor wants, they would hold back the education and give that back. Library agent can never understand that because that benefits everybody and everybody wants it, and it helps our young, it helps our old. It is a staple to every community. This year, for whatever reason, Governor Hochul is recommending a $3.5 million decrease to our libraries. Doesn't make sense. Going to fight against it. We're going to try to not only restore that funding, but increase it as well.
All right, one last thing here to talk about, and that's aid in higher education and how that's going to play out, because if you don't have more aid to higher education, you can pretty much expect that the SUNY tuitions across the state are going to be going up, and apparently that's almost a likelihood this year that we're going to be seeing some major increases in SUNY tuitions.
So, Mike, I like how you did this. We started off with good news, and now we're just cascading down with all bad news. Yes,
Wow.
For all my parents back in the 21st Assembly District, this is not, the governor's proposal is not a good thing on both SUNY and CUNY. Basically, she is increasing funding, direct funding for both SUNY and CUNY schools. But what she's also doing is she's inserting language into the budget that would allow SUNY and CUNY to raise their tuitions over the period of the next 5 years. And I believe we're showing a slide right now that actually anticipates those tuition increases by year, which is about $700, $750 up to $800 a year for SUNY schools. And SUNY schools are the greatest quality college experiences that New York State kids can have. But part of that is because they're so affordable. You look at that graph and you see the increases over the next 5 years. You know, it's going to be hard for parents to pay for that tuition. All of a sudden, we're getting into private school levels of tuitions. We got to fight that. That's unacceptable. I mean, we're going to fund our colleges at the levels that we do. We got to keep that tuition end down.
The color bar of that graph shows how flat the SUNY rate has been over the past several years, but that black and white portion of that graph shows what might be happening. And that would, I mean, if people have been budgeting at that flat rate, that's going to hurt.
And here's the thing, in the years that it was flat, quality of education, I would say, improved. So there is a way to keep the tuition down and still offer a real quality college education to our kids, and that's what SUNY and CUNY is all about.
We've got just about a minute left. As the budget process has been going on, and we've been seeing the budget hearings take place, the joint hearings with the Assembly and the Senate here in Albany. You've been hearing from the department heads. What's your sense? Is this budget going to be coming together pretty easily this year?
No, you know, unfortunately, I do not believe that that it's going to be an easy budget. I'm hoping that we are. I hope that we pass it on time. But the dynamics between the legislature and the governor's office, especially since the rejection of the governor's nominee for the Chief Justice, seems very strained. And there are several topics within her budget that seem as if there are, you know, loggerhead points where it's going to be tough to compromise. So, you know, I am foreseeing that this budget process is going to be a lengthy one and a contentious one.
And this state has a history of late state budgets. It's going to be a time will tell thing. Brian Curran, thanks for being with us today and getting us caught up on what some of those discussions are.
Mike,
we will report back, right, as this budget process plays out.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks for joining us. Thank you folks, too, for spending your time with us. We'll hope to see you soon for our next Assembly Update.